This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to...
This is Nos Arietes.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
Save by Fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rangers through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Nicoladero leaves absolutely no doubt! The Sounders rule the region!
Seattle Sounders is good.
Seattle Sounders, the greatest MLS team in history.
They've scored! They've scored! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Is that what you young people call twerking?
And Paul McKay says, cheat!
We want to win. Let's see how the Sunday, bro.
Good for Seattle!
Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, sponsored by Full Pull Wines, Watson's Counter, and our Substack subscribers. This is the question and answer episode for Week 11 of the MLS season. I am Jeremiah Shan, and joining me today is Aaron Campo and our engineer Lickett. Well, Aaron, you want to just jump right into this and get going?
Yeah, let's do it. So our first question, actually 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of lump them all together because they're all similarly related. Want to shout out the folks asking, Derek Young, who asks via our Substack comments, which that's a new way we're accepting questions from here on out. So shout out to Derek for that, and feel free to look out for that call for questions in the newsletter. But also Bill Jones TRPT and Lindsay 21. What's going on with left back? So Derek says, I'm glad to hear that wasn't a career ender for Rowe. Assuming Nuhu is still out, have we seen Reed Baker-White on the left side before? Bill also asks the same question about RBW. Lindsay asks, is Atencio an option for left back? A lot of people want to know, Jeremiah, what's going on at left back?
Yeah, I would say that this was a area of potential concern basically from the moment training camp opened. If you remember way back at the early stages of training camp, there was a guy named Tate Schmidt that they actually had in camp, and it looked like he might make the roster based solely on the fact that he was the only other left back in camp other than Nuhu. And I guess they ultimately decided that Kellen Rowe was a better backup than Tate Schmidt. And, Schmidt has actually done pretty good for the Houston Dynamo. But that's neither here nor there. The point being, they don't have a lot of depth at left back. We've seen Alex Roldan got one start there sort of as an emergency player that was in the LA Galaxy match. He didn't necessarily look great. But yeah, we saw Cody Baker also start there in the Open Cup game. And it does look like, and Brian Schmetzer said that if Nuhu can't go, that Reed Baker-Whiting is an option there. He played right back in the Open Cup game. I don't think we've ever seen him at left back. If we have, it was maybe for the Defiance, and I don't remember how that went. But they seem to be pretty confident in his ability to handle the position. He's pretty... Schmetzer actually called him ambidextrous. I don't know if... I can't really attest to how good he is with his left foot, but they seem to be pretty good. I think he's pretty good with his left foot.
That goal he scored suggests that he's pretty good with his left foot.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't think the left foot is so much the issue. It's more, there's some body positioning issues when you're switching from being a right back to a left back. You end up, defending a lot in space. And so it's how you kind of direct the opposing players and those kind of things, how you open up your hips, do all these kind of things that are a little bit more technical that I think might be a little bit more of a concern. And I will say this is probably not the ideal game to be missing your left back. Johnny Russell is the guy who's probably going to be attacking from that side. He hasn't necessarily looked great this year, but he's still Johnny Russell, and God, he just totally tears apart the Sounders. So it would be unfortunate if they have to use a backup left back. But then beyond Reed, there's a possibility they could use Alex there. I've seen it floated. Maybe Javier Arriaga could play there. That was not pointedly mentioned as an option by Brian Schmetzer. Lindsay brings up the idea of playing Josh Atencio there. That wasn't mentioned. I don't think that's particularly likely. I suppose you could move to a 3-back system, a 3 center back system. That does not seem to be in the cards. In fact, that was another one that Schmetzer sort of rejected, not necessarily out of hand, but at least at this point, he's not ready to sort of scrap everything that's been working so well in the 4-2-3-1, and doesn't, and I can't really blame him at this point. Like, why should one, I would have to think on some level they were prepared for this possibility that they might be missing their top 2 left backs, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to at least contingency plan for it.
Right.
It's something that you can't just say, well, that's not going to happen. We should be fine. It's, you never know. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think that the best case scenario is you put one of the kids in there and they knock it out of the park, right? Because then you're set.
Yeah.
You're totally set. Kellen Rowe doesn't have to rush himself back from injury. You've got a second option there. Maybe it's somebody who plays a little differently than Nuhu, so you can even mix things up or take different tactical approaches. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is all of the stuff that we just said is probably not going to happen ends up happening because you got to find a better solution. So
yeah, and I should say the other option that I kind of glanced over is Cody Baker. They could potentially sign. I'm told that they do have the ability to sign him to a short-term contract. So if they just needed him for this game, and maybe like 1 or 2 others, they do have that ability to sign him as sort of a bridge. And he did, I really thought he looked good against San Diego Loyal. Now, again, going against Johnny Russell, going to be a little different than going against whoever San Diego had out there. But I guess they have some options, and I'm honestly kind of excited to see what those options look like. I know they say soccer is a weak link sport, meaning that oftentimes it's, you're only as good as your worst player because you can sort of like find ways to exploit one bad player on a field as big as a soccer field. But I don't know. I'm inclined to think this is a decent time to just see what these kids have. All that said, I'm really hopeful Nuhu is going to be back. Hopefully at training tomorrow, and then if he's back at training tomorrow, you got to like his chances to actually be able to start. That said, Aaron, you want to take any wild guesses as to what you think might be going on with Nuhu? I have absolutely zero insight into this one.
No, I mean it's weird. Whatever it is, it's not good. I feel bad for the guy because it's been going on for a while. It doesn't sound like whatever it is pleasant. No, it's I hope he feels better. I hope it's not anything too serious. I know that he stopped eating teriyaki and started eating salad. So
maybe it's withdrawals, teriyaki withdrawals.
Yeah, we shouldn't be joking about it, I guess, but hopefully it's not too serious. But
the fact that Schmetzer was at least cautiously optimistic about getting Nuhu back this week at least tells me that it's not anything too bad, right?
Like, I mean, when did he get sick? He
missed the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
So that was, about 10 days ago.
Yeah. I mean, I have gotten the flu. Now, obviously, I'm not a professional athlete in the prime of my life and career.
Right.
And it was even worse at the point that I did get the flu. But I mean, I was not anything close to normal for like 6 weeks after I got the flu the last time that I had it. So who knows? I mean, who knows what it could be? But I hope he's better soon. It sucks to not feel good. It sucks to be sick.
It does. It really does.
Bad. So yeah,
I should say that question came from BP Raisin on Twitter. I should have given credit to that question, but yeah, that was.
Well, now you have.
Yeah. All right, let's see. This one is from Diamond Hand King. Will we get at least one fullback in the transfer window?
If things go poorly over the next month, probably, I would guess that would be a priority. I mean, I would guess they would at least try to make that happen. I'm hopeful that they're going to be able to find a way to make that not a huge concern. That one of the things they try out here over the next few games is going to work out. Because ultimately, Kellen is going to be out for a while, right? Even if he's back before the secondary transfer window opens, which is what, July?
Something like that, yeah.
Even if he's back, I think that, if you don't have a plan, another plan B, a plan C, I guess, would be the next letter in the alphabet. Having to go through this is probably going to be enough to maybe make that at least something of a priority, even if it's just getting like a veteran fringy guy to bring in, a body to bring in that can play that position. But if Reed Baker Whiting plays out of his mind, or even just plays reasonably well, he doesn't have to play out of his mind. He just has to play competently at left back. That's not really probably something you need to expend resources on in the transfer window. So I'm hopeful that they won't, but if they need one, I would guess that they will target one.
Well, what would your ideal, like if you are to draw up a ideal transfer window and you can pick one player, or one position.
One position.
Yeah, what do you want to see the Sounders bring in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question because I feel so good. Now, obviously right now, I don't feel great about the left back depth. So assuming things stay the same, right? Like we don't find this miraculous solution. I think finding somebody who can play left back and ideally center back, like someone that can play both of those positions. The center back depth is pretty good, but it seems like a shame to have just another roster spot taken up by a guy that can play left back. Or the alternative is a left back who can also play as more of an attacking player.
Yeah.
Like a Jovan Jones type of player. Not Jovan Jones, but a Jovan Jones type of player.
Yeah, Jovan Jones is available.
I'm sure he is. That that can give you like a different option, I think would be a good target. But assuming they can find somebody that is pretty is competent as left back depth, I would feel okay with not doing anything.
Yeah,
like,
I don't feel like there is. I mean, I think this is a good position to be in going into a transfer window is feeling like you have some options. Like I'm not convinced that left back is going to feel like their biggest need. And I hope what they do is they just make an interesting signing. Like they don't have any U22 spots to fill. So that's, you can kind of put that out. But if they can make a TAM signing, like I would not want to see that spent on a left back, I guess. Yeah. If they could bring in like an interesting attacking piece, that would be, I don't know, always nice to bolster your attack if you can.
Yeah, if they could bring in like a winger who can play on both sides at like a TAM level, who's going to be okay with not starting, that obviously be a boon.
Yeah.
But I do think that they're in a position, assuming they keep playing well and assuming they get left back depth figured out in house, where maybe the thing to do is to not use up any of your resources.
Right.
See how Raul comes along, see if he recovers. If not, you might need to sign a DP next year. You might need to, you might have to buy him out. And so you want to have as much flexibility as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'd say that's Raul. That's actually a good observation. I think Raul Rui Diaz's health probably is a bigger factor in what they do than what happens at left back.
And from my perspective, maybe paradoxically, maybe this doesn't make any sense, but if Raul is struggling, that makes me even less inclined to sign a striker or an attacking player, because I think what you want to do ideally is wait until you can replace him with another DP. Whereas if he's playing well and seems healthy and seems like you're definitely going to want to bring him back next year and not use a buyout, you can probably feel a little more comfortable bringing in another attacking piece and not being able to use those resources rather than keeping them in hand.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is from Joe. Just Joe. Another newsletter question. So thank you, Joe. Which of the Defiance players have the most potential to break into the first team, or at least keep playing in a deep Open Cup run?
Let's see. So of the Defiance players, that played in the Open Cup were Cody Baker, Paul Rothrock, Hal Uteritz, and Trevion Sousa. I think all four of them will probably continue to feature in the Open Cup as long as they are alive. Now, which one of those are the most likely to break into the first team? I think the smart money there is probably on either Rothrock or Baker. And of those two, I think Baker is probably the one who has the clearest path to getting into the first team and maybe even playing some first team minutes. And we talked about him a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about Paul Rothrock, who is a name you might remember. He is a Seattle kid. He played for the Sounders Academy. He was actually pretty good in the academy. He went to college. He played at Notre Dame and Georgetown. I think he ended up actually winning a national title at Georgetown. The Sounders elected not to sign him, though, out of college. He got drafted by Toronto FC, ended up playing a couple seasons for Toronto FC 2. Actually had a really good year last year at Toronto FC 2, just didn't really see a path to the first team there. Came back to Seattle, and I don't know how high the expectations were, but he has, I think, opened a lot of eyes in terms of his ability to be an a decent attacking wide midfielder. And with, the possibility of maybe being converted into a fullback, I don't know that he's going to be a left back, but there's some interesting things there. I think he could potentially fill that Christian Roldan right mid role in a pinch. I actually really like Hal Uteritz too. Not necessarily to be on the first team this year, but I could see him, getting a first team contract next year. Trevion Sousa, I haven't seen quite as much from him that makes me think he's a first team talent. He's got some ability. He actually he got some decent chances actually in the Open Cup in the overtime period. I think he also drew the penalty that ended up leading to the win. So there's some interesting pieces there. Some players who didn't get into that game, who I understand the Sounders had wanted to bring them into the Defiance or into the first team roster for the Open Cup, were Ether Bjorgolfsson, who is a forward from Norway, and he's a big body, someone who has looked pretty good for Defiance. And then Georgi, I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to bother saying it, but he's an Ivorian player. Both of them are internationals, and they had some kind of visa issues basically getting into the Open Cup. The process took longer than I think was entirely anticipated. So there's 6 players right there to keep an eye on. But the one that I think is most likely to get into the first team, probably Cody Baker. So anyway, long answer.
A good one though. I mean, you definitely know the Defiance better than I do. So I learned some things.
All right. Well, this one's from Jerome McCaskill, another one from our Substack newsletter. With all the injuries stacking up, is it time for Schmetz to go with some of the youngsters? With Sporting Kansas City in a tough place, does it make sense to give them a shot?
So I think that from my perspective, Schmetz has been doing a pretty decent job of integrating some of the younger players this year. Reed Baker Whiting has not played as much as, I don't want to say as I would have liked, but I wouldn't be sad to see more of him over the coming. I've wanted to see more of him in the past, so hopefully he'll have the opportunity to do that. But I think this year, of all of the years since Schmetzer, has been the coach, and especially like since the Sounders have had the horses, right? Like the players to actually push for playing time coming up through the academy. I think that he's been more prone to doing it this year to give some of the younger guys playing time. So I think there's nothing about the way he's approached the season so far that makes me think that he is not going to give those guys playing time, especially with the fixture congestion and especially with the Open Cup. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely time to use your depth, and Sporting KC is a team against that you kind of don't have a choice to use your, whether or not to use your depth, and B, a team you maybe feel a little more comfortable to integrate some of those guys into the team. But I don't think that you're going to see like an Open Cup type team, right? Like an Open Cup minus the Defiance guys type team at any point. Like, I think that the best way to integrate those guys into the team is start your best 8 and then, a couple of younger players maybe, and put players in a position to succeed, rather than just kind of throwing out the kids to the wolves. So yeah, I think we're definitely going to see some of those guys. I think it's the time to do it. I'm excited to see it. And I do think that Sporting KC is a team that you can feel okay doing it against, but in a weird way, that's like a must-win game, whereas Houston is not necessarily. Right. Like, you don't want to lose any game, but if you do lose a game, I think you'd much rather.
A lot easier to stomach a loss to Houston than it would be to lose at Houston.
Exactly.
And another player who I didn't necessarily mention as a right, another possible player who could play right mid is Reed Baker Whiting, who he's been training pretty exclusively at right back, and I suppose Ethan Dobelair also could potentially play right mid. I don't love those options as much, but there is some flexibility that the Sounders have, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see the Sounders get creative over this next month with some of these solutions.
Yeah. All right, and the next one, we already answered that one. The next one is from TIE Fighter 17. Jordan up top with Chu on the left this weekend. Jordan on the left, and then he's got the little alligator over Jordan on the right, IMO, and I agree.
Yeah, so that actually dovetails nicely with what I was just alluding to. I wouldn't mind seeing Jordan up top with Chu on the left, but that does leave a rather, glaring. Well, it leaves a big question as to who's your right mid. Now, if Christian was available, easy solution. I think at this point, given the fitness of Christian Roldan, I think I would rather see Jordan up top, Chu on the left, and Christian on the right than Bear on up top and Morris on the left, and Roldan on the right, for instance. That's not an option. There's not really a whole lot of point in getting into that right now. But yeah, I mean, I think the question at this point, I think, becomes: would you rather see Bear up top with Jordan on the right, or would you rather see Jordan up top with someone else on the right? And I think that the choices are probably between Ethan, Baker Whiting, and I don't know who else, frankly, because I guess you could try Obed Vargas there. I don't love that option.
I guess you can't play Danny Leyva there.
You can't play Danny Leyva there. He, of course, has been loaned to the Rapids. In case you missed that one.
So do you see any world in which Baker Whiting plays there? Did you just say that? And
Yeah, I think there's a world where that happens. I think is he a better option with Morris as the forward? Maybe. I don't think that's out of the question. I think that's possible. I guess it really depends on whether or not you think Bear is a better matchup for Kansas City than I mean, I don't know. I there's got to be some temptation to play Morris up top against a team he scored 4 goals against.
Yeah. You would think so, and Leo Chu completely lit them up as well.
Yeah. So why not try to rediscover? Like, I don't think that's a crazy suggestion at all. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I think that would be an interesting. It would be also, and I know Schmetzer has also said that he isn't convinced that Baker Whiting is a fullback at this point. Like, he really likes him farther up the pitch.
Yeah.
And
isn't that more the national team where he's being moved back on line?
Yeah, I mean, he has been training pretty exclusively at right back with the Sounders this year, but that's a change this year. Like, he had been playing more as a outside mid. And honestly, the way the Sounders use that right mid spot maybe suits Baker Whiting's game a little bit better, because he can kind of drop into the middle of the park a little bit more effectively. He's good in possession. So I don't know. It's an interesting option.
Yeah.
I'm not against it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if the more critical area is left back, and so if the solution for what you're doing at left back involves him either playing left back or playing right back and Alex sliding over to left back, he's not going to be able to play 2 positions, I suppose. But I would like, that's kind of what I'm rooting for, is him playing on the right.
I think that's that's a reasonable thing. At the very least, I think it's an option the Sounders should look at later in the game.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what we're going to close out with. This is from OG Dutch Boy on Twitter. He says, what do you think is more possible? The Sounders winning the Supporters Shield or a YachtCon return?
Well, I think that's up to y'all, right? I mean, I think I would love to do it. I would love to see everybody again. It's been a while. It's been a while. It was 2020 the last time.
2020 the last time we did it in person.
We did the virtual one, obviously, and that was a lot of fun. But I think we'd love. Pardon?
A lot different.
I'm only speaking for myself, but I would love to do it. But I think it only makes sense to do if there's demand for people to do it. There did not seem to be a ton of demand the last time around, but I think that there were some extenuating circumstances there. I think that we are closer to normal and sort of back to how things are going to be than we were at that point. So, maybe there is the demand again. I hope so. Let us know if there is. Because I do think
people want YachtCon to be back. Hit us up. Make us do it.
Yeah. Ultimately, we have to do it in a way where we can make the numbers work for ourselves and also for our charity partners. Like, that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can do that, I think everybody would love to do it. So if you want it to happen, let us know.
And I'll say I would love to do it again, and I fully intend at some point, one way or the other. I don't think we've seen the last YachtCon.
No.
And so that's a little bit. I guess we're not really answering this question because I don't know. Sounders. I think the Sounders could potentially win the Supporter Shield, but I wanted to talk about potentially doing YachtCon, and it would. My hope is that we start doing live events one way or another. Maybe they're not full blown YachtCons, but that would be fun. I'd like to do YachtCon again. And like I said, if you want YachtCon to come back, let us know. I know there's people out there that want to do it. We've had a lot of fun. We're open to fun. We also need to find a venue that will work. We had a venue this last year. They were the Elks Lodge in Fremont, I guess. Are we calling that Fremont? I don't know if they're going by Fremont. But they volunteered to let us use their space very graciously. So it wasn't the venue's fault that we didn't do it. But, we're always looking. I think I would love to find a venue that's maybe a little bit bigger and but that one might work too. So I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, if people want to do this thing, reach out. I think we can probably figure something out.
Yeah. I think the gist is we will do it again. When we do it, the urgency we have about doing it is kind of dependent on the response we get.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. And I hope it's a good response, because I would love to do it again. The last one, I was, I had just finished chemo. I was still pretty beat up, and didn't really get to enjoy it as much as I'd like. So yeah, it'd be cool to do another one, but it's a lot of work. So
it is a lot of work. One other thing I should plug, in addition to our Substack, which is nosudietis.substack.com, we also have added some new merch to our Threadless store. I think that's nosudietis.threadless.com. And there's some cool stuff that Lickett designed. We did a kind of a thing that's sort of, I guess it's modeled on the St. Pauli skull and crossbones thing. I liked it. I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah,
we have shirts and sweaters and all kinds of stuff. So
we've definitely talked about doing some more of that stuff too. So
yeah. But again, if that's one of those things, if people want it,
right,
we will make it. But if people aren't really into it, we don't need to force things like that.
No, but if you love us, you will buy it.
Right, exactly.
And you will buy multiple versions of it.
Right, exactly. All right, well, all that plugging out of the way, we should probably call it a show. We'll have another episode later in the week. As the cadence has become, we are trying to do at least 3 shows a week. We will probably bring an interview show back pretty soon. I don't know when exactly, but we're lining up an interview I think you guys will like. But for now, I am Jeremiah O'Shan, signing off for our sponsors, Full Pool Wines, Watson's Counter, and our Substack subscribers. This is and Aaron Campo and Lickett. This is Nos Audietes, and we will catch you next time.
We love you. Let's win another one.